Welcome to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about homesteading stuff and life stuff and everything in between. Join me, Amy Dingman, as we explore big questions on a little farm. Hello there, and welcome back to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast. Today is March 15th, 2023. This is episode 235. How are you today? Yesterday, I enjoyed a beautiful day of sunshine as we are waiting for yet another snowstorm to dump itself on the farm here in Minnesota. I've mentioned many times before, March is the snowiest month, and man, this year, Ma Nature is reminding us of that. The news has said that this is definitely in the record books as one of the snowiest winters on record, and man, we are running out of spots to put snow on the farm, plowing all the snow and pushing it out of the way so we can get out of the driveway again and get to the barn. We are running out of places to put the snow. The good thing about this time of year is even if we do get a ton of snow, the ground is starting to warm up enough, or at least the tar is warm enough, that generally the roads aren't horrible forever, like they would be if this was happening in January or February. So there is that. What are we going to talk about today? Today's topic is productive planning on the homestead or otherwise. And I'm talking about this because I actually had a listener who contacted me and wanted to know if I could talk a little bit more about something I mentioned in last week's episode when I was talking about how my husband and I had sat down and made this list of all the stuff that was needed to happen on the farm this year. And we had our little romantic date and we planned it all out and took a look at it and had to be very serious about how are we going to do all these things and what are the things that we need to not do this year because, wow, this list is really big. And this listener said, I would love for you to talk about that a little bit more, just about what you did and how you went through that process, how to take a good look at the year and get a good grasp on what needs to be done and, you know, what's realistic to add, what's realistic to take out. And so that is what we're going to be talking about today. Sometimes my episodes come from conversations with listeners and readers. But before we get to the main topic, what has been happening on the homestead? The first thing I need to say is happy birthday to my oldest. Today is his birthday. He turns 20 years old, no longer a teenager. So a big happy birthday to him. Birthdays aren't too terribly exciting in our family. We usually have a special supper and we get a Dairy Queen ice cream cake and do that. But adulting means that you generally have to work on your birthday, and so I'm not exactly sure how we're going to celebrate the 20th birthday this year, but in any event, happy birthday to the oldest. I do have an incubator update for you. We candled eggs in our homemade incubator this past week, and the results are in. Out of 15 eggs, we had 5 that were a definite yes. You could see very clearly that they were alive and kicking in there. We had 7 that were a maybe. I wasn't 100% sure that they weren't growing, and so I decided they were. And so, hope gets the best of me, and so we did keep those in the incubator. We did have 3 that appeared to be early deaths, and so we did get rid of those eggs. Hatch day should be March 19th or March 20th, somewhere in there, depending on how that incubator is running. So next podcast episode, I should be able to tell you that I have little tiny dinosaurs hatching, and it's wonderful, and we are back to exciting things on the farm. What else can I update you on? I did test out the water-glassed eggs from a year ago. 1 year ago, March 2022, we water-glassed eggs for the first time, and we didn't use them at all during the winter because our chickens continued to lay. So we got to the 1 year mark this month, and I said, you know what, we should probably test these out and see how they taste, and just, because we've never done it before. And so I did test them out. I did write an article about that and do a YouTube video about that. So I will link those in the show notes if you would like to take a look at those. Spoiler alert, they were absolutely fine. The consistency was a little bit different. The whites were a little thinner, and I would say the yolk broke a lot easier, but they tasted absolutely like an egg that I would have taken out of the coop that day. So there you go. If you're not water glassing your eggs, it's a great way to preserve them. Another update was the ham update. If you will remember, we decided that we were going to kind of test out 2 different versions of our recipe. Our original ham brine recipe had way more pink curing salt in it than a lot of people will say is safe to use right now. The recipe we were using is a very old recipe. I decided that we should test out our ham brine recipe using different amounts of pink curing salt. So we did that. We brined some of our pork roasts, we turned them into ham, we smoked them, and then we did a taste test. And here's what we figured out. Using less pink curing salt in the recipe does not affect the taste of the ham. Okay? Repeat, using less pink curing salt in the recipe did not affect the taste of the ham. So therefore, we are now going to use less of the pink curing salt in the recipe. This is not because I'm worried about the nitrites, which is what everybody was coming at me for with this pink curing salt. The reason we are going to use less pink curing salt is because using less pink curing salt means that our pink curing salt lasts longer. This is about resource conservation. So there you go. I have made that update in the original recipe online at my website, farmishkindoflife.com. I also have a YouTube video coming out about the entire process. I don't think that one's coming out till next week. So there you go. Speaking of YouTube, if you have been hanging out anywhere on my social media accounts, you are aware that I am doing more YouTube videos. I'm getting back into YouTube. This is because of a conversation with my family who basically said, I don't understand with all the stuff that we're doing on the farm, why you don't just have a camera following you around and videoing everything, which turned into buying a GoPro, which basically you can attach anywhere on your body with various different mounts, and you can have that camera with you all the time. But long story short, we had a conversation about how people take in content different ways. When I am looking something up, I generally will look up the blog post or the article, because if I want information, I want it quick, and I want to scan the article, pull out the information I need, and then I'm ready to go. Everybody else in my family always defaults to video when they want to know something or when they want to be entertained. So I don't want this whole episode to be about YouTube, but all of that to say, we got a whole big plan here for YouTube. I love making videos. I love editing videos, which is crazy because most people hate editing videos, but I actually love the process of editing videos. And I have often said the problem with doing video and trying to do more on YouTube is that filming and editing is such a time suck. And it is. It always makes your process take longer when you have to set up cameras to catch the footage. However, when you organize your life in such a way that you are planning for that, and you know that that's what you're doing, and you get a little bit more organized in what you're doing, it's easier to pull that off. And so that is my focus right now, doing way more on YouTube, having so much freaking fun with it. Having said that, if you want to help me out with YouTube, please go subscribe to my YouTube channel and go watch some videos that I have made. I have playlists there. I have a homesteading playlist that you can watch through. I have a recipe playlist. I have a random thoughts playlist. Here's the thing about YouTube. I am not monetized on YouTube, which everybody that I talk to, they say, I cannot believe that you are not monetized on YouTube. Because I have lots of followers. I have videos out there that have, thousands and thousands and thousands of views, but I'm still not monetized. The reason is this. To be monetized on YouTube, you have to have 4,000 watch hours within 365 days. I have never been able to reach that number. So what I am saying is if you would like to help me out, I'm at about 1,600 watch hours in the last 365 days right now. So if you'd like to help me out, go to YouTube, go to my channel, watch some videos, okay? I don't want you to be crazy and run them on multiple different devices in your house. Don't do that. YouTube figures that out. They get crabby, and then I actually get in trouble for it. But just go there and watch some videos and leave a comment. That would help me out so much. Once I get to monetization, then I'm monetized, and they can't really take that away. I mean, they can, but, I just need to get there, and then that will be fabulous. The other thing about YouTube, and gosh, I don't want to make this whole thing about YouTube, but it's kind of my life this last week, filming and getting stuff out. Some people have said, why do you want to get monetized? Like, why? Why do you want to use YouTube and get monetized? Here's the thing. I have videos on YouTube, okay? I did a live stream the other night with Eric from Porterhouse and Teal, and he was talking about trying to get monetized. And his whole thing was, actually, he might have said this in a live stream I watched. I cannot remember if it was our live stream or a live stream of his I watched. But anyway, he basically said, I'm putting content on YouTube, and YouTube is making money off of my content. So why would I not want to get monetized so I can get a little piece of that action? You know what I'm saying? And YouTube is great because it is allowing creators to put content up there, and we're not paying anything to put our videos on there. Okay. So I understand what YouTube's doing there. YouTube's like, okay, but I'm giving you a platform to put your stuff on. I want a little bit back from that too. Like I get what they're doing, but YouTube, if you're making bank on all this content people are putting on there, I think the creators should be getting a little cut of that. So that is the point of monetization. So if you could help me get there, that would be awesome. I will put a couple links in the show notes for some interviews and live streams I did last week. I was on Living Free in Tennessee with another episode of Spicy Sisters. I do have that audio. I do plan to upload it for the podcast here. I just didn't because I was really busy the last few days, so didn't get it up here, but I will get it up here. Like I already mentioned, I was on a live stream with Porterhouse and Teal, which was super fun. Had a great conversation about different things like homeschooling, homesteading, being an author, the differences between Minnesota and California when it comes to homesteading. Really great conversation. Super awesome to talk to Eric. So go check those out. The links will be in the show note. Last reminder for today, if you have not subscribed to my monthly snail mail newsletter, The Farmish Papers, this is the month to do that because I'm doing a giveaway for anybody who subscribes this month. One person that subscribes this month is going to win a copy of every single issue that they have missed, all of Volume 1. Okay? So if you want to get in on that, go to my website, farmishkindoflife.com, and look for the tab that says Farmish Papers and get yourself subscribed this month so you can get in on that. All right, main topic. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about how to be organized when you are looking at that year that you're entering on the homestead, how to be really organized about that, how to be realistic about that, but also how to combat something that I like to call project paralysis. Now, sometimes in this community, we will talk about something called analysis paralysis, which is where you've got this thing that you're trying to figure out what's the best way to do it, and you spend all your time analyzing it, and you spend so much time analyzing it that you don't actually do it, right? That's analysis paralysis. Today, I'm talking about project paralysis, which is where you have so many things to do, and it's just an overwhelming ball of yuck, and you get just completely out of sorts, totally overwhelmed, and you don't do anything. Okay, there's so many projects to do that you actually get a little bit paralyzed in moving forward with any of them. And I feel like a lot of people are in that right now. Now, this might depend where you live, because I know people in Texas already have gardens put in. I've talked to people in Texas. They have already planted, right? In Minnesota, I literally have a bazillion, okay, not a bazillion, but I have so many inches of snow. My ground is frozen. I know we will still have a few big snowstorms before this is over. So I'm not planting, obviously. So we are in different places right now. But when you look at that year ahead of you, how do you attack that with a good plan and in a way that you're not going to look at the list of things that you have to accomplish and just lay down and cry and not do anything because there's so much to do. Another thing that will happen this time of year is people just feel stuck because there's so much to do. They feel stuck because especially in the northern states, we see what needs to be done and we are waiting some more. And sometimes it can almost be depressing or frustrating, and there's this stuckness that you feel inside of you because you can't get to the things. So I had a reader who listened to last week's episode and said, I want to know exactly how you went through that process of sitting down with your husband and saying, look, here's all the stuff we have to do on the farm. How are we going to get this all done? So this may be a very obvious episode for some people, but I also feel that sometimes we just need to hear other people's processes, or we just need to be reminded like this is a thing we need to do. Okay, so number one, When you are planning out your year on the farm, write down everything that comes to mind that you need to do. Sit down with your significant other, with your family, whoever is involved in this, write down everything that comes to mind. Even if you think it's obvious because you do it every single year, you still are going to have to fit that into your calendar. And especially if you're making this list and you figure out, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff to do that we didn't realize we had to do, you may end up forgetting those obvious things that still need to be done because you're focused on all that other bigger stuff that just happened to come up this year. Okay? So I'm going to tell you, here were some things that we put on our 2023 farm task list when my husband and I sat down in the dining room and I stood at the dry erase board in our dining room and we just made a giant list of things that we know we need to do. Okay? We need to build an incubator and write the article and do the tutorial for the incubator. Okay? We have a giant tree that is on a pig fence. We need to move it off the pig fence. We need to fix the pig fence. We need to finish the soffit and fascia on our house. If you remember, we sided our house. There is some soffit and fascia that did not get done before the season turned, and so we still need to do that. We need to prep our potato and our onion spot. We need to plant the potato and onion spot. We need to prep the main garden. We need to plant the main garden. We need to take a look at our rat issue to see if that has been solved. We need to figure out our bird order, okay? What are we doing about birds this year? Where are we getting them? When are we ordering them? Then we need to order the birds. We need to figure out what we're doing with our meat bird and turkey run, okay? That is something we are changing this year. We need to figure out the best way to do it. Then we need to build the meat bird run. We need to build rabbit hutches. We need to get rabbits. We need to get pigs. We need to incubate our chicks and our ducklings. We need to get more fruit trees. We need to figure out what to do with the existing fruit trees because we've never had fruit trees that actually made it. So what do I need to do in the spring when the snow is finally gone? Is there something I need to do with those fruit trees we planted last year? We need to run some 220 to our garage. We need to figure out what we're doing with the heated room in our barn because it needs some serious repairs. We had a leakage in there and we need to fix all of that. So we need to figure out how we're going to do it and then we need to do it. We need to figure out how to expand our hydroponics system. And then we need to expand the hydroponic system. We need to decide on what we're doing about a smokehouse because this is year I don't even know how many of saying we're going to build a smokehouse. We need to build the smokehouse, okay? We need to repair the duck and the chicken fence because it was starting to fall down last year. And then with all the super heavy snow we got this year, it's kind of been annihilated, as has the netting that's supposed to be over it. So we need to repair that. We need to demolish our campfire area and repair it. We need to repair the laundry room floor. We need to paint the main level of our house. Those are the things that we put on our Farm 2023 list. I know there are things we forgot. But that was a really big list that we made. Some of those things you're probably like, yep, we're doing that too. Some of them you're like, wow, that's a big list. So that was our list that we were working off of. Okay? The next thing that we did is we went through and said, what things need to be done a certain time of year? Because some of the things on that list have to be done a certain time of year or they're not going to get done, right? There are also things on that list that need to be done before other things can get done on that list. So we had to go through and organize it that way. We also looked at that list and said, what things can be done now while there's how many bazillion inches of snow on the ground and the ground is still itself frozen? What things can we do now to shorten that list so we're not trying to do projects we could have already had done when we can zoom forward in these other projects because the weather finally cooperates? That's a lot of organizing of that list. The next thing that we went through that list and figured out is what do we already have on the calendar already that has really nothing to do with the farm itself? What's already on the calendar already that can't be moved? Or that we know we need to do but we haven't put it on the calendar? But we know that it's something that needs to happen this year. Maybe you have vacations planned already. Maybe you have vacations you want to take. Maybe there is a family reunion. Maybe there is some medical stuff you need to deal with. What are the things going on that don't necessarily have to do with the function of your farm, but they're going to affect the function of your farm? You know what I'm saying? So take a look at the calendar. figure that stuff out. Now, when you're looking at this calendar and you're thinking, we can get all this done in the rest of March, all this done in April, all this done in May, I want you to realize there are things that will get added to this. There are things that are going to get in the way of this. Some things are going to happen way faster than you thought they would. They're going to be super easy, and you're like, wow, that only took a day. We thought it was going to take all weekend, and we got it, done in a day. Then there are other things that are going to take twice as long. You're going to dig into the project and go, oh, right? Because that's life. That's what happens. That doesn't just happen with homesteading. This planning and trying to figure out the calendar and then going, oh, that took way longer. Oh, that was way faster. This applies to everything. Planning your side hustle, planning out your year of homeschooling, planning out writing your book, planning out whatever it is that you're planning out. Steps you're going to take this year to do whatever. Okay? When you're looking at this farm calendar, allow for weather mishaps. When you get 13 inches of rain and your property floods, that's going to affect your calendar. But the thing is, when you make this calendar, and however you organize it, you may have a section on there that is, this is stuff that can be done when the ground is frozen, when the ground is flooded, when it's 110 degrees outside and we don't want to be outside, whatever it is, you can have those projects you can do elsewhere or inside, or things that you can work on that will make the project that much further ahead when you can finally get to the actual project. Weather mishaps are a thing. When trees go down on your farm and now you have to do storm cleanup for a weekend or 3 or 4 days, that cuts into your projects, right? That's the nature of the farm. I am working through a new content creation calendar. I'm trying to figure out how to do YouTube and make it productive and how to be able to repurpose information so it's productive for everything that I'm doing. So I have this new content creation calendar that I'm working off of. And what I have realized is I think I can get a lot more done in a day than I actually do, because I will write out what I'm going to do in that day. Whatever doesn't get done gets moved to the next day. Whatever I did actually get done gets changed to bold type in my spreadsheet. And looking back on it, I'm like, wow, I'm moving a lot of stuff to the next day. And the stuff I thought was going to stay bold as I accomplished that this day, it is not nearly as much as I thought. And I think that's common of homesteaders. I think it's common of go-getters. We think we can get done more in a day than we do because we just want to do all the things, right? So we want to shove so much stuff into 24 hours. But oddly enough, here's something else I've realized. I don't understand how much I actually get done in a day. And I talked about that when I was in a live stream with Eric from Porterhouse and Teal. This is actually something we talked about. You get to the end of the day and you're like, what did I do? You're exhausted, but you're like, okay, like what did I actually do? It's this weird thing. I don't understand. Like we make these lists and we're like, I wanted to get all this stuff done and I didn't hardly get any of that done. And yet I'm exhausted. And here's the thing. We don't write down everything we do. We don't write down every single thing that we are doing. And so we are doing way more than we realize we're doing. That's why one of the things that I think is important about making this farm calendar the way that we were doing it this year is to write down everything you can think of. Even if it is plant the garden, even if it is order chicks. Are you going to forget to order chicks? No. But write it down. Because there's so much stuff we just do because it's automatic. But we almost don't file that in our brain as something we had to do today. So you might identify with that. You feel like you can get so much done and you're exhausted at the end of the day and look at all the stuff I didn't get done. That's because you're not even recording all the stuff you're doing, right? You're not writing down every single thing that you're doing. Now, looking at this list that was staring back at us, which I know we've probably forgotten things on, things that are obvious that I'm going to continue to add to our list. When we looked at this list, it was like having it in front of us in writing was, oh. When we decided we were not going to tap trees this year, even though my Farmish Telegram group was going hard on the peer pressure trying to get me to do that this year, when we decided we weren't going to tap trees this year, it wasn't because it's a lot of work to tap trees. Because really, that part of it is not a lot of work. It's that I didn't know when we were going to have a set of days where we had nothing else going on that we could sit and boil down sap. Because that's a process and you have to watch it. And it really does take your attention for that chunk of days that you're doing it. I looked at the calendar of things we had to do and I thought, I don't know when we can do that this year. Staring at that list and looking at all the things we had to do is also why I didn't feel like I could look at my husband and say, you know what, I think I'm gonna leave for this weekend for this speaking engagement, and I'm gonna leave for 6 days for this other speaking engagement, and I'm gonna be gone for 4 or 5 days for this other speaking engagement. I didn't feel like that even made sense. So I'm glad we made the list. It kind of put things in perspective for us for the year. But it was also a bummer because I realized, you know what, we've got enough stuff going on this year. We don't need to add to it. So that's it. That's kind of our process, just sitting down, making that list, every single thing you can think of, and then trying to put it in some kind of order, things that need to be done a certain time of the year. Obviously, you have to prep the potato patch and the onion patch earlier than planting the garden. At least that would be the case here. But the funny thing is, normally we would be putting in our potatoes and our onions the end of April, I believe, is when we would normally do it. And I'm not kidding you. I don't think the snow is going to be gone this year at that time. So it's going to be an interesting year. But having that list that you can look at and go, okay, we can't do this right now. What else can we do? I've always needed to work off of lists, but as I get older, it's even more important to work off of lists. Having it written right in front of me and knowing that I can look and go, what do we need to accomplish today? We've got the whole day. My husband is home. It's a beautiful day. What are we going to attack today? What's the next thing on the list? Or what's the thing that makes the most sense to do today? If you want to listen to a topic that is similar to this, you can go back to episode 209, where I talked about looking for work, where I was talking about how to figure out the right thing to do at the right time to be the most productive. So I did sort of talk about this already in the past, but thought it would be pertinent to bring it up again just because the time of year that we are in and everybody wanting to be as organized as possible, to be as productive as possible as they head into this farm year. So that's what I have to say to you today. Let me know if you have any questions, if you want any pictures of how it is that we set things up. I can definitely put those on social media or email them to you if you want. And if you have any suggestions or tips for when you are planning out your farm year on the homestead, I would love to hear them. You can email me at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com because who knows, you may have a tip that works better, and I would love to hear it. That's the point of community, helping each other figure out how to grow and do better. If you want to help me grow and do better, I would love it if you would head over to YouTube, hit subscribe on my channel, and watch a few videos and help me get those watch hours up there so we can start making a little bit of coin off of the videos that I am loving to make. All right, y'all, I am off to attack today's to-do list, and I know that you are probably in the process of doing the same as you listen to this. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I will talk to you again soon. Hope you enjoyed the show today. To continue the conversation, visit our website at afarmishkindoflife.com, find A Farmish Kind of Life on social media, or drop me an email at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com. Peace, love, and bacon, y'all. Stay farmish. Stay farmish. Stay farmish.